Hi, folks. Steve Urban here, founder and CEO at recruiting and consulting firm Riderflex. If you think today's tip or guest interview can help someone you know, please share this with them. And if you enjoy listening to our show, please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button on the episodes. Finally, aside from our podcast, our day job here at Riderflex is to provide recruiting, staffing, and consulting services. You can visit riderflex.com to learn more about us and get the information on the services we provide. And now, a quick word from our sponsor and friends at Marketing 360.
Try the #1 marketing platform for small business. Everything you need from design to marketing to CRM. Learn more at marketing360.com. Marketing 360. Fuel your brand.
Funny. That's true.
Here we go. Let's rock and roll. Bridget Johnson on the Riderflex podcast. Hi, Bridget.
Hey there. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you for being on the show. I'm interested to get into your business and the whole world of recycling. I want to talk all about it. But before we go there, let's talk about the life and times of Bridget when she was younger. Family, where you grew up, siblings, mom, dad. Give us some early stuff if you don't mind. Go for it.
Sure. I'm from upstate New York. I'm the oldest of 4 kids. My parents were, my dad's a realtor and an entrepreneur. I was raised in kind of a really fun environment. Grew up on a farm. My grandma had a big farm, so I had a horse growing up, and we had dirt bikes, and we were outside all the time. We had a lot of land and a pool. So our house was the fun house. We had a swinging tree that had a rope and a stick, and you could jump off this cliff and kind of swing all the way around and come back. So it was never a dull moment when I was growing up. Fast forward, I got an opportunity. I went to Alfred State College for 2 years in New York and got a business degree, and then transferred to UNC out here in Colorado. Actually got almost a full ride.
Oh, okay. Why UNC? Did you pick that? Did you target that, or what happened?
They gave me the most amount of money. I applied in like Wyoming, Colorado. I ski patrol. So my dad ski patrolled. I joined when I was 15. And I'm super passionate about skiing. So I was like, you know what? I just need to get out west. And so they gave me the most amount of money to finish college, because my parents' prerequisite was like, hey, we'll let you go 2,000 miles away, but you have to finish your degree.
So your goal was, hey, I want to go to school somewhere where the skiing is a little bit better. Not that the skiing's terrible on the East Coast, but it's better west.
Oh my gosh, it's best out west. Yeah. Yep.
I see that. All right. And did you live in Greeley? You moved to Greeley or what?
Yes, I lived in Greeley for 3 years. Finished my degree, worked at a bar there, paid for all my school myself. That was a big undertaking. So I didn't have to owe too much money when I graduated. And I ski patrolled up at Keystone. And so I had a job up there, and I also worked at the bar, and always knew I wanted to own a company, but I didn't know what it would look like. Business just fascinates me. I love people who start things. I love business owners in general. They're really outgoing.
That entrepreneurship, did you get that from your dad because he was an entrepreneur? Where'd that come from?
Yeah, I would say, both my dad and my mom, they're both entrepreneurs in their own right. Yeah, you know what? I like to control my own time. And so I played soccer in high school, and I was a gymnast, and my dad never missed a meet, and he never missed a game. And I was like, gosh, and he was the only dad that would come to practice, help get me to practice or whatever. And I thought, I really like his lifestyle. My other friends' parents go to a place and they can't leave, and they can't come to these events, and that kind of sucks. So I need to make sure that whatever I'm doing in life, I have a little bit more control of my time.
Boy, that's a great tip for the listeners right there. That is one of the blessings about being an entrepreneur. Now, getting started is obviously super tough, and we can get into some of that. But once you're somewhat established as an entrepreneur, it is a wonderful life, especially when you have kids and family activities. Because if you want to go to the soccer game at 2 p.m., you don't have to ask anybody.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
You're absolutely right. You were an athlete. Did you play sports in UNC as well?
I did. I actually started to play on their soccer team, didn't really get along with the coach so well. So a whole group of us started a club rugby team. So we started the first ever UNC rugby. What were we called? We were called Elegant Violence team.
Elegant Violence. Oh, I like the name.
It was
funny.
exciting. It was awesome. I'd never played rugby before, and I learned a lot in it, and I made some phenomenal friends.
That's pretty
lifelong
cool.
friends.
That's pretty cool. Now, by the way, the drive from Greeley to Keystone, that sucked for ski. Did you live up there? Did you stay overnight?
No, I drove. Dude, I drove up there. I had a piece of crap Volkswagen, little mini car. It wasn't a Bug, but it was a little Passat or something. Passat. I hated that thing. Okay, had no air conditioning, so I was like scraping the window, driving up in the winter, and as you know, that wasn't fun most of the time. So I would work at the bar, and then I would drive up to Keystone, sleep in the parking lot for a couple hours in my sleeping bag, and then get up and patrol.
I love that. Oh, I love that. Okay, so you were doing that, finished the school, knew you wanted to be an entrepreneur. You knew early on, you're like, okay, I love skiing. I'm getting this degree, and this is fun, but I want to own my own business. That was the goal.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Did you have any idea what you wanted to do, or were you thinking I want to own a ski shop? Did you want to do something?
I think I tossed around so many ideas. My friends used to joke. They were like, man, the business ideas you've written down on like napkins at bars or whatnot, because I'm always coming up with another great idea. But nothing stuck. Nothing was in my heart where I was like, I couldn't let go of it. An idea where I was like, it grabbed on and I just couldn't let that idea go. And so if I was going to give anybody advice on starting a business, jeepers, it would be, if there's that idea that just gnaws at you, like everyone, the one that you can shake, that you're like, man, I wonder about, you should lean into that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Very good. What'd you do when you got out of school? What happened first?
Well, I got a job working in Charlotte, North Carolina, of all places, helping an internet company get off the ground.
And you moved?
So
you moved?
I did. And that piece of crap Volkswagen, I moved all the way to North Carolina. I lived there for about 6 months. It was right when the internet was taken off, that people were developing websites. And so I was in charge of a whole sales team, setting up sales in like higher end stuff, like hospitals and doctors' offices. And we had a whole segment that we went after. And so, I did that for 6 months and really learned a lot about the internet space and websites and signing people up for websites. But it wasn't my passion. And the company changed hands and folded. And I had an opportunity to go to Key West and live with my brother, Paul, for a little bit. And we did my dad was a contractor as well as a realtor. And so Paul was building boats and fixing places up. So I worked with him for a little bit and kind of got back on track. He helped me. I remember being out on a sailboat one day and he was just like, what do you really want to do with your life? Like, of all of us, you're the one that has all the degrees. Like half of my siblings most of them didn't even go to school. And so, or they didn't finish college. Like, they went for a little bit and said, yeah, it's not for me. And so I said, I want to go back and ski. That's where my heart is. I love the mountains. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with my life. And so I drove back out to Colorado after about a month with Paul in Key West. And I landed back at Keystone with old friends who took me in, and they were like, you've got to just come live with us. And then I worked at Copper Mountain Resort for about 2.5 years in international sales. First, it was HR and then international sales. I'm so glad I had those experiences because I knew nothing about HR. I knew nothing about hiring people, job titles, paying them, employee reviews, all that stuff that later was going to really help me. So, and I got to ski a lot, which was amazing. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Too much fun.
Now, I got to ask you though. I want to go back just for a second. Now, did you party a lot on Duval Street in Key West? Because I've been there several times.
I did. We would ride bikes there so that we were safely getting home.
Right. That's a town where people go down sometimes for vacation and they just never leave. They just kind of figure out.
That's correct. That's absolutely. You're so accurate. I could still be there if you know what I mean. If I would have come up with that idea, I couldn't shake. I could still be in Key West. Interesting.
Okay, so you crashed with your friends. You started. You worked. You got that experience, But in the meantime, this entrepreneurial bug is just kind of eating away the whole time.
Yeah, it was driving me crazy. I was like, when am I going to start something? I need to start something. Yeah, I had a couple not so great ideas. So I didn't really, I tried a couple things before I did Green Girl Recycling. I wound up moving to Denver, actually. I moved back to Boulder and lived with a group of girls up on Sugarloaf Road. But I was driving to Denver and I worked down there for probably another 8 or 9 months. Okay. Again, another sales job. Okay. And it was like lotions and potions. And it turned into a multi-level thing. And I didn't want to go down that road. And so I broke away from that and I started Green Girl.
Okay, now let's talk about that though. Where'd the idea come from? Did you talk about the transition into starting Green Girl Recycling? I want to know about the transition. How did you fund it?
It was pretty straightforward. We drank a lot of beer. We drank a lot of beer and partied and had a huge volleyball net outside in the back of our house up on Sugarloaf Road, outside of Boulder up in the mountains. And we would have these huge parties. We'd have 100 people at these parties. And I was the only one that would bring the recycling down into town. And I had a Jeep and I would put all this crap in the back of my Jeep and I would take it down to town. And I don't know, I think we had a bunch of parties in a row and I was like, you guys, you got to help me. I'm the only one bringing this recycling into town. It's driving me nuts. Like some of the guys are spitting in the bottles. It's disgusting. Like, you got to help me. And I'm like, can you put it in your car? Can you guys take some of it? And they were like, no, Bridget, you're the greenest girl we know. Like, you're going to do that.
And by the way, what year was this? 98, 97?
98. Yeah. 98.
Yeah. I mean, recycling, it was just a totally different world. I mean, there was some recycling and there was thoughts around it, but nothing like today. So I can only imagine back then in 97, 98, like your friends were like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah, I said, would you guys pay me like 10 or $15 to help with my fuel? Cause I'm the one that's driving it all the way down there and then all the way out to the recycling center. And back then you had to have everything separated. So I went to Target and had all these different bins. I had one for like brown glass, white glass, aluminum cans, office paper, newspaper, cause we had all those things at our house and you had to keep them all separated. So it was a complete pain in the butt. You're like, oh man, all right. Of course, we were filling up the brown glass bin like 10 times faster than every other one because you're party. So I had a lot of bins for the brown glass, which is so yeah, they were like, yeah, we'll totally pay you. And then I remember a couple of weeks went by and I was like, I wonder if there's any haulers that pick this up that would come and grab this from us. So I started making phone calls and I wound up calling one of the biggest trash companies here in town. And they told me it would be $80 to come get our glass and our recycling. And I was like, $80? Like, no, that's outrageous. $80.
Right,
I'm like,
right.
No, but nobody's going to pay $80. Like nobody was. They'll pay for bags to put regular recycling in that gets thrown into the trash and supposedly pulled out at the end of the day. Right. But yeah, I was like, no, I want you to come get my glass. I want the glass to be recycled with the other materials. And yeah, I couldn't let go of that. It bugged me. Like that amount bothered me. So I called a couple of other companies and they weren't hauling glass as well because glass breaks in trucks. So if you put it in the back of a trash truck and you crush it, the glass breaks and then it contaminates all the other materials. So it gets into the newspaper, it gets into the office paper. Okay. So it makes sense. Back then, everything had to be separated, into the separate categories, the separate materials, so just brown glass, just green glass, just white glass. So I was like, all right, I wonder if there was a way that I could pick bring this to town separated, but like make some money doing it. The money part drove me nuts. I'm like, nobody's going to pay $80. Everybody's got glass. There was just a huge need. So I was like, all right, how can I fill this need?
Because at that moment, you're not making money. It's actually costing you money to do all this.
Oh yeah, it was totally costing me money.
Yeah, it's not a business at that point. It's you're just trying to do the right thing for the environment, and it's costing you money and time.
Yep. Yeah, in New York, you could just take all your stuff to the facility. You drive into the facility. There's a little kid there that works or you like a Boy Scout or Girl Scout. It'll help you take your bags out of your truck, your car, put it in the right bin, and you just drive through away you go. You tip them, right? So that goes to their troop. And I was like, man, there's nothing like that out here. That's such a cool business model. So I looked at like setting one of those up, and I had no money. I was so broke. So I was like, well, I could pick this up for people, and I could come up with X number of dollars per house, to get it so much a week. And so I kind of played around with the the amount, the frequency, what I would do, how I would get it. And I said, well, you know what I'll do? I'll knock on doors, and I won't stop for 10 days straight. And I'll just see who will sign up. Right. So it's just sweat equity. I was like, I'll just knock on doors. So when I was in college at UNC, I actually sold books door to door one summer, which was the crappiest job ever. But I made a ton of money. I made I think I was like a top salesperson. I think I made like 15 grand in 2 months. Nobody made that much money. And I was like, sweet, I've got school paid for this next year just from selling these crazy books. So I did the same. You made a map, and then you start at the bottom of a road, and you just go to every single house, and you just draw on your map where the houses are and who you talk to, if they said yes or no. But I would put their dog's name, their kid's name, and their last name and their phone number if I could get it, which helped me so much in the future. So I did 10 days straight, and I signed up 20 houses.
Okay. Now at this time, I just want to set the stage for the listeners. This is way before Boulder mandates recycling. This is way before any of that. What percentage of people, because this is in Boulder, you were doing the door knocking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What percentage of people do you think at that time, just take a guess, were recycling? 10%? Maybe?
More 20 or 30%.
Okay.
But a lot of them were paying one of those first color to put their recycling in. They couldn't put glass in.
Let me ask you that again, because you cut out right there. I want to make sure your internet's dropping just a little bit from time to time. But they were paying who?
They were paying a trash company to pick up their recycling, but they could not put glass into it.
Okay. All right. Did you know how much they were paying the trash company? So were you trying to beat that or undercut that, or what were you doing with that?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
Yes and yes. Yep.
Okay. Got it. All right. So you're knocking on doors, and they're like, who are you? What? What? What do you want?
And I was like, I'm Bridget. I'm the green girl. I'm going to help you with your recycling. I'll go right into your garage or I'll pet your dog. I won't let him out. You know what I mean? I'll give him a treat along the way, and I'll take all your recycling, and 100% of it I'll get to the recycling center.
So, all right. So so the pitch is, so you're knocking on my door. By the way, did you already have the name Green Girl Recycling? Did you already have the name?
I was working on that. No. I just said, I'm
Bridget. I'm
Bridget. Yeah. My friends call me the green girl. You know what I mean? Because all my friends did. They were like, oh, hey, green girl, which was a joke. It was a joke. At these parties, they were like, oh, Bridget's the greenest girl we know. She'll get your stuff to town.
Okay. So you knocked on the door, and you're like, look, did you look to see who was already recycling? You're like, okay, I know they're recycling, so I'm going to knock on their door and tell them that it's going to be cheaper. No, you didn't know. Okay.
Oh my God. I literally knocked on every door. And this is a good story. A couple of them came to the door with a gun straight out the window. And they were like, what are you doing out there? What do you want? And I'm like, I was like, it's just the census. I see you're still here. I'm leaving. Bye.
Now, if you told me if you said people came to the door with guns in Weld County up in Greeley, that would sound more normal. In Boulder, that sounds weird.
Well, in the mountains, not in the mountains.
Gotcha. That's
I would never break into somebody's house in the mountains.
Yeah, you got that.
No way.
Yeah, you got that right. Yeah. That by the way, for the listeners, not to go down a little side road here, but yeah, if you go up in the mountains, camping or ATVing or whatever, if you're up there, I can promise you 80% of the people up there are packing something. Anyway, all right. So you're knocking on doors. Go. All right. Yeah, go for it.
Oh yeah, no. So I thought, I did the math, and I was like, wow, 20 houses, $15 each. I've got my Jeep payment.
Huh? Okay.
I've got my Jeep payment. This is like a viable business. This is the real deal. I need a trailer to pull behind my Jeep now to go get this recycling that I said I would get for me to make this happen. Mind you, this is before cell phones. This is before I had a pager. This is, because I'm dating myself here. That's how people ran businesses. And so in the mountains, you can't call anybody. You still can't, because there's no reception.
Right.
So I had to go back to all those houses. I bought a pager, give them the pager number so that they could page me if anything changed or they had extra stuff or whatever, they could call me. So now I had like an actual my first business line, which was a pager number.
Hold on, I'm having a visual. When you get the page, now you got to pull over to the 7-Eleven, you just pay phone or wait till you get home.
Oh my God, I knew where every payphone in Boulder was. Every single one. Every single one. Yep. That's so crazy. Yeah, I started the whole business knocking on doors and with a pager. And then I bought a trailer for $300. It was a motorcycle trailer, built up the walls on the side of it. So I could put all these little bins that I was going to use to keep everything separated in when I picked things up.
Okay. Now, were you working your other job at this time or had you already quit?
Oh yeah. Oh no. So yeah, I worked at I had like 3 jobs. I worked at the Pearl Street Inn was the big one.
Okay.
It was a bed and breakfast down off the Pearl Street Mall.
Okay. So you were still working there. Now, are you single at the time? Still living with some girls in an apartment? Still living with friends?
Living with the girls, single. I was dating my husband. I started dating my husband during all this craziness.
Okay. Now I can just imagine how that conversation went. You meet him down at the bar or whatever in Boulder. And he's like, so what do you do? And you're like, well, you see that Jeep out there with that little trailer with the boards on the side that I put up? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I was dating him when I started it. He was painting houses.
Oh, he was painting houses. Okay.
It was, and we had a competition. He actually and I'm very competitive. He was like, so whoever makes more money this year doing what they're doing, we should do that. And I remember being like, well, we are not a we officially. So I'm going to kick your butt. So I knocked on doors. So that 10 days turned into 100 days. I was so motivated to get more business than him. It wasn't even funny because he was crushing it, like spraying houses and painting houses. Painters do very well. I don't think people really realize how well. Yeah.
And he was now at that time, he was by himself and you were by yourself. You didn't have any partners or any employees. Okay, got it. All right.
Yep. So I wound up signing up enough business 3 months. I think it started in like July or August. By the end of that year, I had more business coming in than he did.
Sweet.
And mine was reoccurring revenue. I still have 8 of the first 10 houses I ever signed.
Oh, see, that's okay. That right. That's a big difference, right? Yeah. Because if you paint my house, I'm not going to see you again for like 15 years. Right. Okay. Got it.
Bingo.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. All right. And so it started taking off. Let's do this. Give me the 3-minute elevator pitch for Green Girl Recycling as it stands today. Like today, if I call you, what all do you do? Give us the pitch as of today. Now, by the way, for the listeners, greengirlrecycling.com is the website. You can also find Bridget Johnson on LinkedIn, of course, and probably other places, but greengirlrecycling.com. Give us the overview. Go for it.
Sure. Green Girl Recycling provides residential and commercial recycling in Boulder, Larimer, and Weld counties. We create solutions for recycling problems. We specialize in electronics recycling. We do paper shredding. We do composting. We also do the gamut of hard to recycle. So that can be anything from loose plastic bags, styrofoam blocks. We do hardback book recycling. We do toner cartridge recycling. We kind of help people create solutions to any problem they might have in any industry. So we work with companies one-on-one to set up the best program for them that works in their office, or it works at their restaurant, or it works at their home-based business. Everyone produces slightly different materials, and we help them with those services.
Okay, so there's not a blanket payment plan or program. It really depends on the business, the size, residential, commercial, what they're recycling, and then you can put together a program. Okay.
We can, and we also do call-in pickups. We have a warehouse where people can come, bring paper for shredding, and bring recycling into us, electronics, and we process them at our warehouse here in Longmont.
Okay. Can I ask a few questions here? So I'm going to ask you some questions as a commoner. Let's I don't know anything about recycling. Let's pretend like I know a thing. I know a little bit, but not nearly as much as you do. So let me ask you some commoner questions, things that people from Weld County would probably ask, because I'm guessing they're the least percentage that recycle. I live in Weld County, by the way. So what's the difference between calling Green Girl Recycling and taking my laptops and TVs out to the landfill and putting them in that little separate section they have? What's the difference there?
Sure. Well, we only partner with R2 e-Steward companies to have things broken down correctly. What does that mean? What's R2? What's an e-Steward?
Okay.
They're companies that are registered with the state, that are audited all the time, that break everything down correctly here in Colorado. And all of the circuit boards and the back end, the plastic and the metal, all have to go to a special place, a correct place to be processed. So they're not thrown away.
Okay.
There are some shady operations that don't actually do things correctly. They don't break every single component down to its best use again. Right. So if we were talking about TVs, for example.
Yeah,
right?
TVs. Let's do TVs. Yep.
Right. There's around the TV, that needs to get ground up and can be reused. The glass is leaded. There are only 2 places in the United States right now that accept leaded glass for recycling. So they need to be going on a truck to one of those 2 places so that it can be turned back into leaded glass again, or the lead extruded.
I see. And if I take my TVs to the regular landfill, I say regular because I don't know the name of it. I don't know the big one that's out.
Yeah, you can take it to different places. You just want to know, what are they doing with it? Who are they partnering with? Those are the best questions.
Is it better? Is it cheaper for me to call Green Girl Recycling, or it saves me time because you come pick it up, or both? How does that work?
Yes, it is cheaper to use us, but not with TVs. TVs are very expensive. And so EcoCycle in Boulder has, I think, the best, actually Best Buy has the best price still for certain size TVs to recycle those. Then I would go to Boulder, that EcoCycle manages. I think they're 79 cents a pound, or 90 cents a pound, or $3 an inch. So for TVs, for laptops, towers, cell phones, wires, cords, cables, that's all free for us. So we don't charge for that.
I see. I see. Where do you make your most money? Off the
Great
paper?
electronics, like stereos and stuff. We just charge 40 cents a pound. So yeah, we beat everybody on price.
Okay. Where do you make the most money in your business? Is it the paper shredding or the what? Walk me through your business model. And yeah.
The most percentage probably comes in from electronics, then paper shredding, and then the commercial accounts for single stream in Boulder.
I see. Okay. All right. Have you kept it in Colorado only? Like, have you purposely kept it, quote, small business because you've had it for a while? Did you get to a certain point?
I did, because I wanted to have kids and actually raise them myself. Mm-hmm. So my oldest, Gavin, is 15. He's sophomore Boulder High, and Turner's 11, and he's in 6th grade at Centennial Middle School. So when they were babies, I wanted to be the one to raise them. I didn't want to put them in daycare.
Yeah.
And so you can never hit pause on a business. Mm-hmm. Well, I sure tried. You know what I mean? I was just like, oh my gosh, when I was breastfeeding, I was crazy. I was just like a lunatic for a year.
Gotcha.
So you're either growing or you're not growing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so those years we grew, but a very small percentage when the kids were really little. And then when they got big enough and they were going to school, I stepped on the gas again hard. I was like, all right, let's do this. Let's, grow the business. We expanded, we moved the warehouse. I hired more employees. I bought out businesses twice since I started Green Girl. So I bought out Green Mountain Recycling in 2004. And then in 2009, I had the opportunity to buy the equipment from Waste Not Recycling with all the customers that came with that equipment. I did not buy out Waste Not Recycling. Anita Comer's amazing and still owns it and runs it. Anytime anybody's ever interviewed me, they always screw that up. And I'm like, I didn't buy her out. I just bought the equipment and the business from her, which doubled our size. So it was really significant purchase. She's an amazing person. They're up in Kelm, Colorado. I love those guys.
Okay. How big is the company now? Employees? I don't know if you want to share revenue, but how many employees you got?
I've got 9 guys now.
9 people. And are you planning on growing? Do you want to grow bigger? What's the goal? What's the plan now?
Yeah. So I started an eBay business 2 years ago, and we've tripled that revenue just even in the last 2 months. So I think the focus will be, growing Green Girl, getting more electronics accounts and more electronics recycling, which feeds that eBay business, which is taking off, which is awesome. It's super fun to just, things have more life. How does
that tie together? What do you mean eBay business? What do you mean?
Sure. So when people turn in stereo equipment,
Okay.
and it still works. Or this is what will happen. Somebody's parent will die and they're cleaning out their house and they're like, hey, we have all these old tax documents. We're worried somebody's going to steal our parents' identity. They've moved on. Can you help us? And we're like, yeah, we'll shred all of your documents. Hey, did you know we also do electronics recycling? They're like, oh my gosh, their house is riddled with like old laptops and stereo equipment and toasters. Right. If it has a plug or a battery, we can recycle it. So I'm like, bring it in, we'll help you. And so let's say that old radio, it has a lot of value still. Some of them are really old and they're really valuable. Well, does that make sense?
It does. I'm sorry. You're. I don't know if that's me or you chopping up on the internet. But so what I heard you say was, so when it comes in, your guys in the warehouse, your team, it either gets recycled and crunched up, or if it still works and it has value, it goes on your eBay store. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yep.
Great. I see. Are you making more money off the eBay than you are the recycling already?
No.
No. Okay.
Not yet.
Okay. Not yet.
I just hired another employee though this last week, who's now running all of eBay, and so there's a whole division there. So before you started
eBay, what'd you do with the stuff that was still working? You just went ahead and recycled it?
We have partners in Denver, so all the high end stuff that needs to be like shredded, R2 certified. We use Urban Mining Squared and we use EOS up in Loveland. We were using a company down in Denver for all the we use MetTech now for all the TVs. They're also our TOE stewards. We work with a company called Revamped, who's a middleman that helps move the TVs for us. And then we've worked with a guy named Pete, who owns 3R Technology for like the medium grade stuff that we didn't realize had so much more life attached to it. So if something's completely broken, it's going to get ground up and repurposed. So the metal is going to get extruded out of it. The metal is going to get repurposed. Plastics go in a different pile, if that makes any sense.
It does. Have you ever thought about opening up your own, what do you call it? The processing plant that crunches it up instead of paying somebody else? You ever thought about doing that yourself?
I think about those things, but kind of being a middleman and being selective is more profitable right now for us. But I love the people that we partner with.
Where did this passion come from? Where did the recycle? How did that happen? When you were young, did you come across a campsite or something, or were you up in the mountains skiing and you saw people leaving trash and you got like where'd the passion come from around it?
I think, when I was really little, I wanted a new bike. And so my dad said, well, why don't you ride your bicycle, my piece of crap bike, around to the different farmers, go collect their cans. I'll help you. We'll take the cans in. We can sell the cans and then you can use that money towards a new bike. And I was like, all right. I think he thought I would just maybe do it or not. I crushed it. I went out, I knocked on every door, it's just kind of who I am. Then in college, this is a good story. In college, all my girlfriends and I wanted to go to Florida when we were in New York on spring break. And so we would call it midnight runs. We would go to the boys' dorms at night. We'd knock on their doors and be like, got any cans? Got any cans you want to get rid of so that nobody can bust you for drinking because you're not.
I see. Okay.
So we would take these gigantic bags of cans, run down the halls with them, put them in my piece of crap Volkswagen. And then
how about that?
I would go sell them, and we saved up money that semester. And I took the whole floor to Florida on cans. So I think the passion for recycling came from like the value I saw in it. Like, wow, that you can really make a lot of money doing this.
Okay, very good. No, I appreciate you sharing that with me. By the way, back then it wasn't co-ed, right? It was girls dorms, boys dorms, right? Probably.
There were a couple dorms. My dorm actually was co-ed, but there were a couple of them that were still separated.
I see.
That was at Alfred State in New York. Yeah.
And of course, 80% of the doors you knocked on there had cans in there because all the guys were drinking beer.
Heck yeah. You know it. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, very good. I appreciate you sharing all of that with me. So do you want to go, besides the eBay, do you want to go bigger with the recycling? Do you want to cover the state? Do you want to go to other states?
Yeah, I've actually helped a bunch of different businesses get off the ground here in Colorado, up in Creed. I helped them start a program up there that's still running, Recycle Creed. Carrie Bush started that back in the day. She was actually a customer of mine up here in the Barquet Ranch outside of Boulder where we live. And she also has a house in Creed, and she'd started that, and it's still going. Carrie has since passed away this last year, but the whole program still runs up there, which is pretty awesome. I helped a company in Illinois get off the ground doing the same thing that we do. I just kind of consulted with them through just different meetings that we had on the phone and kept them on track. I think people, it's really easy for them to be like, have an idea and then kind of get away from it. And I was like, oh no, if you ask for my help, I'm gonna call you and check on you. So there's another guy that's out of where's he out of? He's in the Midwest that I'm helping with his price strategy. He's doing a lot better. So that's been fun. Do I want to go big across the United States? No, I think I love what I do here. I think it's been really fun to grow the company here. I love learning new things. I'm so passionate about learning about all the different things you can do with recycling, and it changes all the time. Recycling has changed consistently since I started this. First, it was everything had to be separated. Then you could mix the commingle, the glass cans and plastics, and you can mix the paper, right? So I set up trucks to do that. Then it was like, oh man, we could put everything together, and now it's single stream. Now you can mix all of your recycling together into one stream, and the facility separates all of it. They do a good job in Boulder, but they don't all across America. So the value for that material has gone down since single stream became more popular. I think a lot of companies are now, or MRFs, so material recovery facilities, are going back to dual stream because they can keep the glass out of the paper a little bit easier, which makes the value of the paper higher. Does that make sense?
It does. So, and I live in Johnstown, Colorado, near Loveland in Weld County. They just rolled out a new trash service for us recently. It's like 2 weeks old. I don't even know the name of the new company. I just know it's a new company with new cans, and they dropped a recycling can. There wasn't recycling cans before, believe it or not. So now there's a recycling can and a regular can. So when I put all the stuff in the recycling can, and it mixes together, is that still bad, or what should I be doing?
Yeah, so that's a single stream program, right? If it's all in one can.
Okay.
But what you need to do is just rinse your stuff. You don't have to rinse it so that it's spotless, but rinse it. You know, like the only one that I ever tell people to be careful of is the peanut butter. Just kind of like take a paper towel and try to get as much out as you can. You don't have to like sit there under hot water for 10 minutes, but everything else, if you just give it a little rinse, it's fine. Then it goes to the facility and it can get processed a little bit easier. Don't crush your cans, because most equipment has optical sorting and sees an aluminum can as an aluminum can. Used to be back in the day, you told everybody to crush the cans because you could make more room and you could fit more in a truck.
I remember that.
Now the sorting equipment needs to see what it is. It recognizes it and it blows it off the line. So the Boulder facility is amazing. They have tours. They've pumped millions of dollars. I mean, I think I can think of at least 7 million in the last couple of years that have gone into that facility to make it what it is today, with it truly separates everything off the line and gets it into the right area.
Okay. But you service Weld County, so you service where I live. So what?
We do.
Okay.
So different communities have contracts with different haulers.
Okay.
So we've been expanding big into Platteville because there's no recycling out there.
I see.
There's only trash. So we do residential recycling in Boulder County. We do residential recycling on the Front Range in unincorporated areas that don't already have a huge program that isn't being serviced by Republic or Waste Connections or Ram Waste, or, you know what I mean? In different areas, there's different haulers. We partnered with a bunch of the haulers so that if a commercial account wants recycling, they refer us, which is amazing. I love that. Because that's not their game. If trash is your game, you don't care about the recycling.
Gotcha.
You just want more numbers with trash, right? That makes sense.
How do you feel when you meet somebody at a social party and you find out that they don't recycle and they don't believe in recycling? What do you like, string up? Do you like tie them down and beat them up, or what do you do?
Now I always ask people like, well, why?
Yeah. Why?
You know?
Most of it's probably just education around it, probably, isn't it? Or
well, they just say, "Oh, it doesn't happen. That's not really happening. Recycling is not really happening."
Yeah, give me that. Yeah, talk about that for a minute, because I've heard people they're like, "Oh, it's all just bullshit," or what. Like I hear people say stuff like that.
Right?
How do you respond to that?
You know, it really depends on where you live. So there's pockets in Colorado where it's really not happening, and they're 100% right. But in the Front Range, we have a bunch of MRFs. There's a couple in Denver. There's one in Colorado Springs. There's one in Boulder. There's one up in Larimer County off the Taft Hill Road. They're really recycling. They're really doing it, right? They're really taking cardboard, putting it in a baler and making a cardboard bale, creating a 40,000 pound load, probably in a couple days, and shipping it off, and it's going to New Mexico and it's being turned right back into cardboard. That is absolutely 100% happening all day long. And so when people say, oh, the cardboard isn't really happening, glass isn't really happening, I'm like, oh my gosh, glass in Colorado, it is so happening. We've got Coors, we've got Anheuser-Busch, we've got Ball Aerospace producing bazillions of cans. So typically, I think the new thing is like every 13 days, a can's a can again. So if you recycle your can, it's turned into a can again.
I didn't know it happens that fast. Let me ask you this: what happens to the cardboard boxes from Amazon orders in towns that don't recycle, and the cardboard just goes in the regular trash can? What happens to that?
That goes to landfill. Then it becomes compost. It's going to get turned into dirt fastest, right? That's way better than a plastic bottle. Plastic bottle is going to sit in a landfill for millions of years. So if you're concerned about recycling something, recycle those freaking plastic bottles.
Okay,
so
I'm glad you
tubs, jugs, and jars.
I'm glad you brought that up. Wow. If glass lasts for that long, why the hell is it even legal to make shit in glass? I mean, what?
Right. The better question is why can you make so much in plastics and different grades of plastic, right? So we're only recycling 1s through 7s. There's other grades. There's grades that aren't being recycled, like all the film, that go like the special, like if you buy a toothbrush and that toothbrush is stuck in that film, right? That's not typically, it's not a bottle, tub, jug, or jar. The facility can't recognize that. So that's now trash. Like, why can they pack it? I really wish that Americans could come together on the producer responsibility, like packaging responsibility, the sustainability of packaging. Like, let's just all agree that hey, if we're going to make a product and the product's awesome, let's put it in a package that's recyclable 100%. And if it's not, right, in an area, is it compostable? So if they're going to throw it away, it's at least not going to hurt the environment a million years from now.
What you just said, that summary that you just said right there was perfect. And my question is, why aren't we doing that? So it's either A, it's recyclable. I don't know if that's a word, recyclable.
Yeah, recyclable. Yeah.
It's either that or it, like you said, it composts pretty easily. Like it should be automatically one of those two. Why wouldn't it be mandated that it's one of those two? That's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer.
Oh, I 100% agree.
Is that because
I don't know?
Is that because Procter and Gamble and everybody else that makes shit in plastic is too powerful and too big, and lobbyists can't get this stuff passed? Is that part of it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, which is why I love EcoCycle, because they're lobbying in Denver and in Washington all the time for this stuff. They're like, hey, let's not use plastic bags anymore. Let's make people bring their bags in and reduce that waste. If people didn't offer the bags, you would bring something in, right?
You would. Yeah, you would. Do you know what year plastic was created? What was it? Was that like 1930 or when was that? I don't know. 40s, 30s, 40s, 20s.
I think it was in the 40s. It didn't really become popular until the 50s and 60s with it's on the internet.
Okay.
It's not my specialty,
well,
but yeah.
It's something like that. I remember it's something around there, right? Yeah, it's something around there. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy.
I just wonder if the creators of plastic and the early manufacturers of plastic, I wonder if they had any idea what that was going to do to the planet. I don't think so, right? I don't believe there was some evil person creating plastic back then thinking it was going to be bad, right? I think they were like, oh, look at this great stuff that we can use to put crap in, right? And now here we are. Now here we are, 70, 80 years later, whatever it's been, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's not good.
Right. And now the problem is the microplastics, right? So have you heard of microplastics that we're eating?
I don't know what that means. Nope. What is that?
Oh, all right. This is not, things that keep you up at night. So plastics, when they're composted, you should never compost plastic, right? If you break it down, you get it so small, it's a microplastic. You can't even see it.
Okay.
But amoeba can ingest it. Fish eat it. Birds eat it, right? So we're literally putting that crap into our soil, growing other things out of it. So it's in the plants, it's in what we're eating now. They've done studies, and there's all this, you can Google this and follow microplastics and the issues that it's having in the environment, we're going to see cancers we've never even heard of, thought of.
Wow.
Because of this. You can't get away from it. Like I can't get away from it. I'm very cognizant of it. And there's not a whole lot I can do except for educate, tell people, holy crap, do not put anything plastic into your compost bin. Just don't do it.
I see. Okay. That is another great tip. I'm sure most of the listeners do not know that. It is interesting how, and I think about this often, everything is just on the planet. It is just recycling and going. It's not going into outer space. It's recycling right here. Every single thing we're doing is just going around in a circle.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, kind of like what goes around comes around, what you put out, you get back.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So just be careful what you're doing. Be careful with your products. I mean, I always tell people, they're like, what's one piece of advice? And I'm like, man, vote with your dollar. Don't buy shit. Don't. Like literally buy things that you love and packaging that's sustainable, right? That you're going to use over and over and over again. Support companies that are green. People have to report now. Companies have to report what their carbon footprint is, what they're doing. I mean, at Green Girl, we actually create recycling reports for people that are real. I poured thousands of dollars into our database so that when we pick up recycling for people, we actually track how much somebody recycled on that route, what they recycled, how much weight was that, so that I can give them at the end of the year or monthly, even if they need it. I mean, Crocs loves to see what they do every month.
I love that. That's great.
What their diversion rate was, like how much did they keep out of the landfill? What's that environmental impact? So support people like that. You know, there's green banking. You don't have to park your money at a giant big bank. There are green banks that actually will invest your money in only things that are sustainable, not like fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are not sustainable, and that's not helping.
Did not know that.
Right? We all know this, but not a lot of people think about, I have a savings account and the bank's using my savings or investing it, or my pension. Where's my pension fund? Like, where's that money going? It's in my pension. What's it invested in?
I didn't know there were green banks. That's interesting. Okay. I had no idea.
Yep. Yeah. I think the millennials are super into this. They are so into what is sustainable, what is green, and where they're parking their money. It's so fascinating talking to them about these things, because anybody in my generation and older is like, what? Oh, I never think about those things. It's just it's not just a new buzz, but it's kind of like that whole you were talking about everything. Like, yeah, if you're recycling, you're on the right track, but there's so much more you can do. So when I go and speak to big corporate, at events and whatnot, they're like, hey, what can we be doing here? Then I always look in their kitchen. I always look at, what are they using? Are they using things that are not compostable? Well, let's get rid of that plastic crap, right? Or let's get rid of the paper cups that have, plastic film in them. They should be using, it should say BPA, like it's certified compostable. Let's look at the kind of the serving platters. They have somebody coming and then they put all this food in these platters that are not recyclable. And then they, then they're going in the trash. What kind of like napkins are they using? What kind of paper are they buying? Are they buying recycled paper? Are they buying, craft envelopes that you can't really recycle, those big orange crappy craft envelopes? So I just look at their purchasing power. I'll ask them. I mean, if they'll let me talk to their accounting department, I'll really look and go, well, you could change. Again, don't buy crap. You can change. You can park your money into things that are 100% sustainable, or you can buy whatever's just available to you.
Have you thought about running? I mean, do you have like a tips, a consulting page, a tips page? I mean, like where, like you have so many,
Maybe I should. No, I mean, I go to meetings a lot and talk to people.
You've mentioned 10 things in the last 5 minutes that I did not know. And I'm sure the listeners are like, okay, wow. All right. Wow. This is all great information. Have you thought about running like a consulting service, or like, hey, I can come into your company and I can give you an analysis and a scorecard and tips and what you should do to improve? I mean, hell, you could that's another revenue stream.
I love doing that. That is so fun. I love helping people.
I mean, or maybe like a tips page on, I don't know. Do you have a tips page on your website? I mean, you got a lot of knowledge.
I have some, but you're right. I don't think I have like a true, have you thought about this things
Your
that I
knowledge.
keep me up at night. I know EcoCycle's website has many of these topics.
Okay.
And in depth, like in
Okay.
depth microplastics, in depth, like sustainable investing. And so, yeah, I mean, there's links out there, but you're right. But there's not one concise thing with that.
And just listening to you, I'm fascinated. You know what I knew about recycling before this call? I'll give you my the extent of my knowledge around recycling before we did this. My knowledge was driving to the landfill a couple of times to drop crap off from my garage and feeling like really like almost like sick to my stomach. Like, wow, okay, we actually do this as human beings. Like we do this, we really do this. By the way, for the listeners, if you have not driven out to a landfill to, I don't know, drop off an old couch or whatever, try going and let me know if you don't have some emotions around it, because for me it was emotional, and I was really just like, wow, okay, this is like not good. Like how do we change this? That was what I was thinking on the way back.
I love you just said that.
Yeah, it will make a difference for you if you go out there. It's scary, but
I took the kids their school as a field trip, so you got a picture like 30 kids running around picking up crap, and I'm like, don't touch it. Don't, like, we're walking on it, but don't touch it. Like they're like, what's this? I'm like, it's disgusting. And watching the trucks drop off with trash, which half of it's cardboard. And I'm like, man, divert. Just start with diversion at your house. But I mean, everybody always says to me, I don't know what I can recycle. Where I live, like I don't know what I can recycle, and I don't know where to take it if I don't have a program at my house.
Yeah.
So there's some great links. There's Colorado Recycles is a great website to go to that has all the recycling facilities in the state and haulers and who does what and where you can take things. It's always great to look. Cities always have a list too. So if you go to your city's website.
Okay, good to know.
Is there recycling near me? Who do you like? Who do you partner with? And then hard to recycle events are awesome places to get rid of things. Oh. I love thrift stores. My sister Megan ran the Summit Thrift and Treasure for 10 years in Summit County. Okay. They're just gems. You can take so much to a thrift store, and then somebody else who could be looking for that thing, they're so happy to find it. Yep. And then give that item more life.
Totally agree. I will tell you this. I know we're running out of time. I want to ask you two last questions before we go, but I want to give this tip to the listeners. If you're a novice or you're ignorant to most recycling, like I am, I would encourage the listeners to just start with two things. How about start with this? Does this make sense to you? Tell me if you disagree. Just do your cardboard and bottles. Why don't you just start with that? Well, if you don't feel like you can learn everything about recycling right away and it's just too overwhelming for you, just make sure your Amazon packages are recycled and separate your bottles. Is that a good starting place?
Yeah, all your aluminum cans, anything aluminum.
And the aluminum cans. Okay, so
definitely.
Those are three pretty easy things to do, because I do think my instincts tell me some people don't recycle because it's too overwhelming. They don't know the rules. They don't know what they're supposed to do, whatever. Yeah, just start with that. Aluminum cans, bottles, cardboard. Why don't you start there?
Yeah, absolutely. And then don't buy crap.
And don't buy crap, right? Don't buy crap. Okay. Man, I could talk to you for another hour. I know we ran out of time here. Can I ask you two wrap-up questions?
Sure.
If you could, you've learned a lot now as a business owner. By the way, congratulations on the fact, because you've had your business for what, 20-something years? How long has it been?
23. Yeah, 23.
23 years as an entrepreneur and successful business owner, and raised a family and learned how to balance all of that. Congratulations. Nice job.
Thank you.
Nice job. If you could call the young lady back in upstate New York when she was coming out of high school and tell her anything now based on what you've learned, a couple of tips you'd give her?
To myself? You broke up for a second.
Yes.
I think I would just say to keep your head down and just keep running. Don't ever quit. Don't ever give up. Okay.
All right. We didn't talk about some of the trials and tribulations you went through as a business owner, because that's probably another hour podcast, right? Some of the what if you had to define your core purpose? Have you ever thought about putting your core purpose into like a sentence? a statement or like a mantra? Do you have one?
Yeah, I always tell people, why do you do this? And I'm like, I am so passionate about keeping everything out of the landfill that can stay out of landfill, right? So if I can help you divert, then I've won. When I die someday and I look back, I made a difference this time, a huge difference, and that's why I'm here, to make a difference.
You've been making a difference. Hell, you could travel the country right now as a speaker and a consultant, and probably make more money doing that.
Maybe, you never know. You never know.
Congratulations on everything, Bridget. I really appreciate you being on the Riderflex podcast and sharing your story. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. It was an honor.